Hello everyone, how you doing today? Today will be a little bit different type of knife review. I'll be focusing more on Kershaw as a company in general and some of their offerings. The point being they offer a lot of high value alternatives or options. And anything you see before you right there can be had for less than $100, and in most cases much less than $100, because I think that on average, even though the knife community has evolved dramatically over the years and more people are getting exposure and involved with custom knives and mid-tech knives, which have in general generally have a much higher price point, a lot of people, or the majority of the knife collectors out there, still prefer the less expensive options, generally speaking. So the less expensive options don't always have to mean crap knives. And Kershaw has done a great job of proving that. They've done the impossible at one point, where when I used to spend $20 on a knife, it most certainly did not get me anything on the level of what you're seeing here. The Kershaw Chill is an outstanding everyday carry knife for 20 bucks. I've seen them for less than that at some points. I've seen like $17. I think I saw them on Amazon for that much a couple times. They fluctuate, but nonetheless, you get a lot. This is an R.J. Martin design here. It's very thin. The handle's only 0.35 inches, so you don't even notice you're carrying it, especially when you factor in the weight, 2.2 ounces. It's one of the most lightweight EDC knives that you're going to really see from Kershaw. They have other lightweight options, but this is probably of the lightest, the best option. Really, really nice. And as you can see, it is an R.J. Martin design. There's a lot of things that are reminiscent of the overall design that are very obvious. Just the flipper and the handle shape and the blade and the thumb ramp and everything. Now the thumb ramp does not come with jimping. If you didn't notice already, I modified this myself and polished up all of the steel liners and the pocket clip and the blade itself, and just wanted to make it a little unique. And then I just did the etching, as you can see there, of the flat line, the heartbeat, and then there it says R.J. Martin design. So made in China. Pretty cool though that you're getting such great quality. I mean, look at the lockup. For such a thin liner and a thin blade, that's a really good lockup position. Okay, and if you do a button press on this flipper, you get a very fast deployment. The light switching can be done as well, and it's still pretty snappy if you look at it. I don't remember it being quite that smooth before I polished the blade, but I do remember it being just as fast as you see here when you button press. But it feels really good in the hand, and even without the jimping, it's really not necessarily. You have a nice little ramp for your thumb regardless, and you're doing light cutting with a knife like this, so you probably don't need the extra traction. It's nice to have. Okay, and it's not a weak blade. It's just everything's very thin, narrow, lightweight. And this is a hollow grind. And you have the flat edge here with some nice belly going up to the tip. And the blade steel is 8CR13 MOV, which is not a high-end steel, but it's not crap, which is great. I've spent 20 bucks plenty of times and never gotten so much. You know, when I first started getting knives and I really wasn't into them when I was just a little kid, I'd get a Remington knife or something cheap because that's all I could afford. And I'd whittle, or I started getting jobs. I'd cut boxes or whatever in a warehouse with it. And I just didn't know any better. And I look back, I still have some of them, and they're total crap. They're just terrible. This is so amazing that you can get something this nice for 20 bucks. It just blows me away. There's little tweaks. There's really not much negative I can say about this knife. At the price point, the only thing I'd change is I'd make it so the pocket clip didn't carry so high. It needs to carry deeper, especially when you have a lightweight knife. You don't want it working its way out and falling out on you, because you probably won't even notice until you reach for it and see that it's not there. And that's no bueno. Not good. Even a $20 knife, when it's this cool, I wouldn't want to lose it. So another nice thing that they did is they even drilled out, I don't know if I'll be able to get you to see this or not. Yeah, maybe you can see there on the top scale on the inside. See those holes or those circles? They drilled out, or milled out, however you want to say it, the steel liners. How cool is that on a $20 knife? I see that all the time, that they miss that on high-end knives. That you spend 10 times as much. They don't drill out the liners. This saves weight. This is great. It has a pretty smooth G10, black G10 handle overlay, or scales, if you will. Again, you don't really need a ton of traction, but when you have a flipper, just the design of the knife with the finger choil there, and I guess you could call it a finger guard almost, and the thumb ramp, you have all the traction you really need. You don't need traction. You have ergonomics that are going to allow you to hold on to the knife. So this is just a great option. For a little bit more, $38 last I checked, Ballpark. These are all give or take. These prices fluctuate. For about 38 bucks, you can get yourself, and this is a little bit newer, the Nura, N-U-R-A, 3.5. They have a 3-inch version, the blade being 3-inch, and then they have this version, which the blade is 3.5 inches. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned on the Chill, that's a 3.125 inch blade. So just a little over 3 inches, pretty cool. So anyway, back to this, 3.5 inches. Instead of a liner lock like the last one, you have a frame lock. And at $38, you're obviously not going to be getting a titanium handle. And I think in many cases that's good with a knife like this, because you don't want titanium to steal unless they carbonize it, the lock face. Otherwise it's going to wear quickly, and you're not going to have a very long life on your knife in general because of the lock. So you don't have to worry about that. This is steel on steel contact. The lockup is at a good percentage, probably about 1/3 lockup there, 30% or something like that. It's great. And you have semi-custom, non-standard, I guess you could call it, pivot pins, which is cool. And this is based on a design much like the R.J. Martin. This was based on a design from a custom knife maker named Dmitry Sinkovich. And you'll see that there's the KVT right there. This, I think, gained a lot of attention because it's a budget knife with KVT ball bearings. Ball bearings have, over the years, become more of a premium option among folding knife actions. And when you see a budget knife at sub $40 incorporating it, it's pretty cool. It comes with this gray coating, probably the same coating they use on the Cryo. Looks identical to me. This is a stainless steel handle, and they did a brush finish on it. I wonder if we can capture that. Yeah, I think you can see that. Kind of the grains, like a satin rub. That's the finish they put on there. And it looks really nice. It's a nice contrast, and much like the color coating they put on the blade, in the relief cuts and the handle, you have that color as well as on some of the sides of the handle scale. Flow-through design, one center standoff, one that goes through for the pocket clip, which also has this unique lanyard hole. I don't know if you can see that, but there's basically a barrel around this post that goes through, and you can loop your lanyard in there. I've done it. It's a pain in the ass, but it works once you get it. It's also probably a flawed design because these edges here, if your lanyard's shifting around, could rub up against those edges and fray and wear through eventually. So I don't like that design, but it's unique, so neato. Little touches though on a $40 knife. You get the KVT ball bearings, these pivot pins, your little inset there where you have that on this end too for the pocket clip, but it says Kershaw in there, and you can flip the pocket clip for righty or lefty. It's tip up only carry. And even though it's technically a spring clip, it's just cool when they do something a little different. Anything that's gonna set it apart from a standard spring clip makes me happy. So that's pretty cool. Nice deep carry. You have enough to grab onto, but it's not like that last one, the Chill, sticking out like crazy. Easy to disengage the lock, and it's a pretty smooth action for ball bearings. It's pretty smooth. The detent's nice, and if I recall, this one doesn't like being light switched all that much. It works, it's just it's not as consistent. Let me try that again. Yeah, you can get it to work. Did it lock up completely there? Yeah, it did. But you really benefit from button pressing this one. Anyway, coming from the factory, it has a decent edge on it. It has a better edge than more expensive knives. I just bought a $200 Quartermaster, and it's really overall a pretty decent blade. It's got a lot more to offer than this knife, of course, but some simple things really differentiate manufacturers. Benchmade usually, from what I've seen anyway, I've heard mixed reviews on this, so this is definitely debatable, but I usually get lucky and get really sharp edges from them, and I see that from Kershaw and Spyderco as well in general. What I really like is that with Kershaw's budget knives, I see them coming to me sharp, and this was no exception. This had a lot sharper edge on it than that Quartermaster, that $200 knife that I had. So I really like that they send you a tool that's made to cut, ready to actually cut stuff. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer, but a lot of manufacturers don't get that. So nicely done. Fit and finish, it's decent. Okay, so the centering, if you keep playing with this, will get more and more off-centered because the pivot will loosen. This is off-centered a little bit to the right there. It was dead centered when I started the video, and just from flipping it a few times, it starts to shift it. So they're not Loctiting these. If they are, their Loctite sucks or they're not doing it right. So if you Loctite it, you're going to want to center the blade, then Loctite it. Let it sit for a few days, and you're going to have a nice knife. Great value. It's very thin. This thing is, you know what? I don't know how much this one weighs. Let me weigh it for you. It's obviously not going to be near as light as that Chill, but man, it's so thin in the pocket that it's still a good EDC knife. Okay, so 3.8 ounces. That's fine for an EDC knife, and that's what these really all are. Now, also, one thing to mention, as far as finish goes, I don't know if you're going to really see them on the camera here. Maybe if I get the right angle. You might see some scratches. Very minor hairline, thin, small scratches. I don't know if you can really pick them up. There's one down here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them on the camera here, but it kind of came a little banged up. Not real bad, but there's kind of minor scratches all over the place if you really get a good view on it. And just something to think of. I think that this finish is conducive to that sort of thing, and fingerprints and smudges and stuff, but I don't really care. With that sort of finish, you can refinish that if you want. You can just disassemble the knife, take the handle scales, and take some real fine sandpaper or some Scotch-Brite, make sure it's on a completely flat surface, and just run that in the same direction back and forth, and there you go, good as new. This has the same blade steel as the Chill, by the way, the 8CR13 MOV, so decent. Slight step up in blade steels. These two offer you a little bit better blade steel. They have 14C28N. It's not a major jump, it's not like S30V or something in a whole new bracket, but it is a little bit better. It has a little bit better cutting capabilities. They're all pretty much the same as far as corrosion resistance goes, more or less. They're all very good with corrosion resistance. Again, not as good as some of the like S30V steels, but it's not going to just sit there and rust in your pocket for the most part. So this here is the knockout. This is only $68. This is the most expensive of the four I'm showing you right now. Again, not even $70, and you're getting a very thin flipper. This aluminum handle is 0.4 ounces. 0.4 inches. Very thin in the pocket. A little bit wider, which is okay. No jimping. A little bit broader, bigger in all the dimensions sort of knife. Really wide blade there. And you can get this in a lot of different configurations. You can get this without the black coating. This is the OD handle. You can get it with a black handle. Comes with a nice sharp edge on it. Thumb stud deployment does work. And then you have the assisted opening flipper. Very solid lockup. You have a sub-frame lock here instead of the liner lock or the frame lock, sub-frame. Simple but deep carry pocket clip. Way to get it done. Very nice. Actually that's not G10, that's this plastic backspacer there. I think I already said it was aluminum handles. Quad carry capability. Tip up, tip down. Right hand, left hand, however you want to do it. This works for everyone. It probably works for almost everyone's budget, and it's a good knife. It feels great in the hand. The curvature of the profile of the handle is very nice. Of course, it's not going to fill the hand, so if you're doing really heavy cutting, it'll start to get uncomfortable. But this is just a great knife. And it looks pretty nice too. It's only 3.8 ounces. This is the same weight as the Nura. Slightly less overall length. The blade's 3¼ inches as opposed to the 3½. Still great size overall. Great option. Then you have the Piston, which was one of the most appealing to me just in general. You're back up to a 3.5-inch blade. The same 14C28N steel as the knockout there. But it is a little bit bigger, but I just think ergonomically and the overall size, I prefer. It's only 0.2 ounces heavier, so it's a 4-ounce EDC blade. And they are able to accomplish this even though it's a larger knife because the handles are entirely made of G10. Except for the back spacer with that cool gear, flush gear pattern there. It's still plastic. I don't care. Lanyard hole. Did this one have a lanyard hole? No. Wait. Nope. So if you wanted something a little bigger and something you could put a lanyard on, you can do that with that post right there. As you can see, the G10 has some, you can probably tell, it has some decent traction. Low to medium. And then they have these cut out, almost looks like waves or rays, or but it looks cool. And that's just ground in. It's indented in. And it's still very thin. The handle's 0.46 inches in thickness. So it varies deep in the pocket again. You still can get your fingers on it though. And you have the liner lock here. Lockup's nice. None of these have blade play in any direction, just for the record. Now I've had I think 3 of the knockouts. I've only handled this one Nura, and I've handled, because I've done customizations for this Chill, I've handled about 6 or 7 of those. And I've never had blade play in any of these. I've had about 10 of these, including this one, and never once have I had blade play. So that's nice. Solid lockup. I added the jimping again. This is one I obviously customized. Normally it comes with a stonewash blade, if I recall, and I did an acid stonewash here on everything that's not the flats. Everything, I just left the flats alone basically. Put an aftermarket edge on there. I did that on the Chill as well. It's very sharp. Reprofiled the edge. Very nice. Check that out. Yeah. The edges on the angled thumb ramp here were sharp and catching on stuff, so I just dremeled it, sanded it a little bit. Still have plenty of traction with the jimping on the face right here, but it's just not going to catch on anything. It was really aggressive before. Jimping came out pretty nice overall. Definitely feels good. It does its job. Great blade design. I like the looks of it. I think this really turned out pretty cool. And that's why I've had so many of these. Is I've done a lot of custom work to this particular knife because a lot of people like it, and it's at a good price point. This thing's only $60. Again, assisted flipper, and you can use the thumb stud, that angled thumb stud there. You can use that just fine. So very nice. Great value on these knives. You just get so much. Centering on all of these are really good. I think this one is a little bit off because I haven't done anything to this one. Yeah, it's a little bit to the right. It's something you can fix, not a big deal. A little tweaking for getting this kind of value on such an inexpensive knife is totally worth it in my book. I haven't had to do anything here besides, like I said, round that off so it was more comfortable on the thumb stud. Gave it a little jimping. That's not really a must-have for most people, but it's nice to have. Just kind of started on the jimping. I got to refine that a little bit down there. And then I had to grind out the G10. That's one thing I noticed, is that this whole area in here with the lock engagement, they vary quite a bit from knife to knife, from each piston I would get. You know, the lock bar would stick out a little bit too far, or in this case the G10 stuck out a little bit too far, and it was a little too aggressive, and it would like pinch your finger when you would disengage the lock bar. So I just tweaked it a little bit. Did an acid stonewash on the pocket clip as well. If I remember correctly, I need to stonewash it a little bit more, but etched it with the acid. Again, quad carry, tip up, tip down, right, left. Just a great option. So again, under $100 for any of these, you know, quite a bit under $100. Kershaw has amazing options. These are some of my favorite knives by them. There are so many others that I like. I just wanted to just grab a few. I mean, the Skyline's a classic. I'm not a huge fan of it in general because it's a very bittersweet with me and Skylines. I have probably 5 of them just because I'm weird like that. I like the design. It's a classic. I had to have it in my collection, and then they come out with all these different variations of it. Well, this is the nicest one they've made. They also come with the same thing you're seeing here, but it's a black coated blade. But this is the nicest one I've seen anyway, and it's carbon fiber, and it has a flat grind blade. Normally it's a hollow grind, and pretty cool. S30V steel rather than their cheap stuff they usually put in their blades. So this is kind of the the fancy, classy Skyline, I guess you could call it. Comes with a nice edge on it, very nice edge. Comes with excellent lockup. And those are a couple things that the Skylines are inconsistent with. I've seen them come very dull. I've seen the lockups just suck. Not really much blade play, it's just they're really late and it's a thin knife, so that matters. The fit and finish on this is just perfect. The blade centering, that's another terrible thing I used to see, because I've handled, I don't know, probably close to 20 or 30 Skylines in my life, different Skylines, friends and stores, customizing them and sending them back. And I've probably seen out of all of those, maybe 3 of them with perfect blade centering like this one has. And this is one of those 3. So, but it's like, if I remember correctly, this is $120. So if you want to step it up and keep it in the Kershaw line, you could get something like this. There's plenty of other more high-end Kershaws, and if you really want to get into a high-end Kershaw, you can get yourself into a 0 tolerance, and that's going to be a whole new tier of quality and design, in my opinion. But this is just smooth. That's another thing. The detent on a lot of the Kershaws is inconsistent. This one's perfect. I can do the light switch. I can do the button press. A little bit smaller, better EDC knife. This is the other big problem with the Skylines, is I despise, especially on a flipper, tip down carry. And despise it. Won't carry it if it's tip down. Tip down, yeah, said that right. And the problem is yes, you can switch it. But when you do, you have a ton of knife sticking out of your pocket. You have like a third of it sticking out. Maybe that's a quarter. A lot of it. Too much in my opinion. So you can get now these loop over, deep carry, custom pocket clips that fix that. So I'm going to do that on this. I just got to find the right clip. It hasn't been a high priority of mine because I'm not really carrying it. I just had to have this in my collection. I'll carry it eventually. But again, this is another great option. Any of these price points give you a lot more for the dollar in each of these knives than a lot of other manufacturers will. So just something to consider. I hope that you enjoyed some of the options that I showed you. Like I said, look at their catalog, look at their website. There is a ton to choose from. It's just I've seen a lot of consistency with these knives giving good results in the end, and seeing a lot of people be pleased with them. And these aren't people who just hold on to them and put them in their pocket. These are people who actually use them, and they're very, very pleased. So again, I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was insightful or informative. Please feel free to give me any feedback, questions, or thoughts that you may have. I appreciate it, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.